The evening air was cool, but the warmth spilling from Leo and Clara's apartment felt like a welcome embrace. Anna, holding Mark's hand tightly, felt a light, pleasant anticipation for an evening of good food and friends. Her relationship with Mark was that rare, quiet example of deep love, where every day felt secure and she felt truly understood. He was her anchor, her most honest friend, and her future seemed as bright and cloudless as the evening sky above them. The door flew open and they were met with laughter. A few people were already gathered inside, and the cozy apartment was filled with a soft hum of voices and the aroma of roasted duck. Anna immediately felt at home, surrounded by familiar faces and kind smiles. She shared a hug with Clara, kissed Leo on the cheek, and Mark, who was sitting next to Anna, occasionally threw in his own comments, sometimes glancing at Sophia with a light, barely perceptible smile that Anna took as approval of her new acquaintance. Anna felt completely happy. This was it, her perfect present. The man she loved by her side, good friends, and a pleasant new acquaintance with whom a friendship might blossom. In that moment, the world seemed perfect, devoid of any hidden corners or unsolved mysteries. She savored every moment, unaware that behind this idyllic scene lurked the shadow of the past, ready to crash down and shatter her happy world into 1,000 pieces. A few days later, while the memory of that dinner was still a pleasant warmth in her heart, Anna took on a seemingly mundane task, tackling the mess in the old closet. Every year she promised herself she would do it, and every year she put it off. Now, in a burst of spring fervor, she methodically pulled out boxes full of long-forgotten things. Beneath a pile of dusty sweaters, at the very bottom lay a small cardboard box tied with faded string. Photos, she thought, and her heart gave a sweet squeeze of anticipation. Maybe there were pictures from his youth that he'd promised to show her, or some of their shared moments she'd simply forgotten. She sat on the floor, carefully untied the knot, and opened the lid. The first few photos were innocent, landscapes, group shots where she didn't immediately recognize anyone. Then, as her fingers sifted through the glossy rectangles, he appeared in one of them, Mark. He was standing, laughing, with his arm wrapped around the waist of a tall, slender blonde. Anna felt a slight pang under her ribs. Not jealousy, no, just something vaguely familiar about the woman's outline. She flipped further. Another picture, closer up. The blonde, her head resting on his shoulder, her hair spread across his chest. And then Anna froze. Her heart did a flip, skipped a beat, and began to pound with frantic force. It was her, the woman from the dinner, Sophia, the one Anna had so sweetly chatted with about travel and art, laughed at her witty remarks, and shared dessert with. The one Mark had introduced as an old friend. The world around Anna began to blur. The air in her lungs became heavy and sticky. She frantically sorted through the pictures as if searching for a refutation, but finding only confirmation of her worst suspicion. Here they were together on a beach. Here against the backdrop of some European city. Here he was holding her hand, her head pressed against his chest. Their poses, their gazes, their closeness, everything screamed of tenderness, intimacy, and a deep, undeniable connection that clearly went beyond old friends. The last photo in the box slipped from her trembling hands and fell face up on the floor, as if deliberately delivering the final, devastating blow. In it, Mark was on one knee, holding out a ring box, and Sophia, smiling dazzlingly through tears, was showing the camera her left hand, an engagement ring gleaming on her ring finger. Anna felt her stomach knot in a spasm, and a lump rose in her throat. She stared at the picture, at his smile, as sincere and loving as the ones he directed at her, at Sophia's happy, triumphant face. And the only thing she could feel in that moment was a deafening, paralyzing emptiness pierced by the sharp shards of betrayal. The air was knocked out of her lungs, leaving only a silent, tearing scream trying to escape. She sat in the living room listening to every sound outside the door. In her hands, like a verdict, lay those very photographs. Her heart pounded heavily, keeping time with the pain and distrust. When the key turned in the lock, she flinched but did not get up. He walked in, smiling, but his smile quickly faded when he saw her, face pale, eyes red, and her gaze as sharp as shards of ice. "What's wrong, sweetie?" His voice was habitually tender, but now she heard only falsehood in it. She silently handed him the top photograph, the one where he was on one knee and that woman from dinner was beaming, showing off the ring on her finger. Color drained from his face. He turned ash gray. The hand that had reached out to hug her froze in the air. "Where did you get this?" he whispered, his voice sounding foreign. "It doesn't matter where, Mark." Her voice trembled, but she forced herself to speak firmly. "What matters is what this is. What matters is why am I only finding out about this now? Why was I sitting at the same table with your ex-fiancée without knowing who she was?" He tried to step toward her, to take her hand. She sharply pulled hers away, as if his touch was searing. "Listen, this is old history," he began, frantically scrambling for words. "A long time ago. It means nothing. We broke up years ago. I didn't see the point in telling you." "Old history?" Her voice turned into a hoarse whisper of pain and rage. "An engagement, Mark? You were going to marry her. That's not just a date, not just a fling. That's a part of your life you carefully hid. How can that mean nothing?" I know. He ran a hand through his hair, flustered, but in his eyes she saw not remorse but fear. "But it has nothing to do with us, with what we have. I love you." "It has nothing to do with us?" She stood up, her trembling body tense, but there was an iron resolve in every movement. "You lied to me. Every day we were together, you built our relationship on a lie. You looked me in the eye, knowing I didn't know the truth, and kept smiling. This has nothing to do with us. This is us, Mark, built on the foundation of your deceit." "I didn't want to hurt you," his voice turned pleading. "I didn't know how to tell you. I thought it was too complicated, too painful. I was afraid you'd leave if you knew." His words, instead of comforting her, pierced her even deeper. They weren't an excuse, but further proof of his selfishness. "You were afraid of hurting me?" Tears stung her eyes, but she held them back. "You thought the truth would hurt more than this lie? This festering, stinking lie that was eating away at everything we built? That's not protection, Mark. That is betrayal." He was silent, looking down, and in that silence she realized that his attempts to downplay the past, his good intentions, only worsened the feeling that she had been cheated in the most despicable way. This wasn't enough. It was clear to her that his version was only the tip of the iceberg. The silence after their heavy conversation was heavier than any argument. Mark's words, his attempts to minimize the past, only drove the wedge deeper into the already shaky foundation of their world. "Old history that doesn't matter," he insisted, but her heart screamed it was a lie. Every one of his touches now felt false, every glance tinged with hidden things. The nights were sleepless, every rustle in the dark an echo of her own doubts. His secrecy, which she had previously seen as a masculine reserve, was now exposed as a deep, deceptive wall. She had to know, not just guess, but know for sure. In the stream of faces passing through her memory, Leo surfaced, the mutual friend who had first brought Mark into their social circle. Leo had been a longtime buddy of Mark since college. Their paths had crossed long before she arrived. She remembered his gaze when they met at parties, sometimes a little more intense than necessary when Mark's past came up. Dialing the number, she felt her throat go dry. It was as if she wasn't just going to ask a question, but break into a safe full of someone else's secrets. Leo's voice was surprised but friendly. "Anna, hi, long time no talk. Is something wrong?" he asked, and a barely noticeable note of apprehension crept into his voice. She took a deep breath. "Leo, I need to know something about Mark's past. I need the truth." The silence on the other end was more eloquent than any words. "Anna, I'm not sure I have the right to tell you. Mark should have told you everything himself." Her heart ached at the confirmation of her worst fears. "He told me, but I don't believe him. And I saw her, that woman." She heard Leo sigh heavily. "Okay, come over if you want, or let's meet somewhere. But this is not what Mark would want you to know." They met at a small cafe on the outskirts, away from prying eyes. Leo looked guilty and stressed. He started talking slowly, choosing his words, but as the story unfolded, his tone became harsher. "It was awful, Anna. Not just a breakup. Sophia was his fiancée. They lived together. They were making plans. And then he destroyed everything. It was messy. Cheating, then lying, then attempts to cover it up. She was completely shattered. Not just hurt feelings, but betrayal in the worst sense. And he just disappeared for a while, and then came back like nothing happened. He was a coward. He never knew how to take responsibility when things got too hard. He always found a way to distort the truth, make himself the victim, or just omit the most important parts. He rewrote his history, his own life, and, it seems, yours too." Every word from Leo hit her like a blow, knocking the air from her lungs. He didn't just omit the engagement, he lied. Systematically, consciously, rearranging his past to make it look more acceptable. Her Mark, her reliable, honest Mark, was a skillful manipulator, capable of cold-blooded deception. She looked at Leo but saw only the ruins of her world. Leo's words left no doubt. Her relationship was built on a lie, carefully woven from omissions and half-truths. Fragments of conversations surfaced in her mind, where Mark briefly mentioned exes, but never elaborated, brushing them off as unimportant. Now, those unimportant moments screamed of his lies. She knew she couldn't let him get away with it. She had to look him in the eye. The air in the living room was thick, heavy with unspoken accusations and the dust of 1,000 shattered hopes. Outside, the city hummed, unconcerned. Inside, only the rhythmic ticking of an antique clock dared to break the suffocating silence. He sat on the edge of the sofa, hunched over, his gaze fixed on his hands, nervously intertwining his fingers. Anna stood opposite him, her hands tightly clenched. Everything inside her was trembling, but she refused to show weakness. "This isn't just about the engagement, Mark." Her voice sounded cold and detached, almost foreign to her. "It's about you letting me think I knew you, that there was something real between us." He looked up, his eyes puffy with fatigue or feigned pity. "I already told you, I didn't want to hurt you. That was in the past, old history." "Old history?" Anna took a step forward, her voice rising, filling with bitterness. "Sophia was your fiancée, Mark. You proposed to her, promised to be with her for the rest of your life, and then destroyed everything. You cheated on her, betrayed her. You disappeared. How could you do that?" His face went pale. He tried to interrupt her, but Anna didn't give him a chance. "Don't, Mark. I talked to Leo, your friend, remember? The one who was at that very engagement where you swore your love to her in front of everyone. He told me about how you built this wall of lies around yourself for years before you even met me. And when I came along, you just built me into that lie." Anna let the information hang in the air. His lips trembled. "You didn't just hide one fact, Mark. You hid an entire life. You rewrote your history, erased all the inconvenient moments to present yourself to me as the man you wanted me to see. And you let me sit at the same table with Sophia, smile at her, unaware that she wasn't just an old friend, but the woman you were going to marry, the woman whose heart you crushed. Her voice almost broke into a scream, but Anna held back. And all this time, you looked me in the eye, told me you loved me. How? How could you? He turned away, running his palm over his face. I was scared, he whispered. Scared of what? That I'd find out who you really are? That you'd leave? That you'd see me for who I am? That you wouldn't love me? I was afraid you wouldn't understand that I made mistakes. I wanted to start over, clean slate. I thought if you didn't know, it wouldn't matter. Mark's voice cracked, and he finally met her gaze, his eyes full of despair and tears. I wanted so badly for it to work with you. You're different. I didn't want to risk it. Anna saw his tears, but they didn't move her. Too much pain, too much deception. So you decided that I deserved to be lied to? That my life, my trust, that was the price you were willing to pay for your clean slate? He shook his head, his shoulders trembling. No, I messed up. I didn't know how to tell you. It always seemed too late. The longer it went, the harder it got. I thought I could fix it. I could be who you wanted. I manipulated, yes. I lied, because I'm terrified of being alone, scared of being abandoned. Scared of being abandoned, I don't know how else to be when something really matters to me. The words burst out of him in a torrent, chaotic and full of self-justification, yet incredibly sincere in its pain. He was confessing not so much to her as to himself, laying bare the festering wounds of his fears and insecurities. Anna stood, listening to her entire worldview crumble, as the man she loved confessed that he was just a skillful illusion, woven from fear and deceit. His confession, bitter and fragmented, brought no catharsis, only exposed a gaping void. Anna looked at him, at the man she thought she knew down to the last wrinkle of his soul, and saw only a carefully constructed mirage. The elusive line between truth and lies, which he had so long and so masterfully blurred, finally vanished, leaving behind only the cold, monstrous reality. She couldn't breathe around him. The decision came not as a flash, but as an inevitable tide, washing away the remnants of her doubts and fears. It was impossible to build a future on a foundation woven from deceit, on the ashes of sincerity he had so ruthlessly burned. The pain was physical, a sharp, aching spasm in her chest, tears scalding her cheeks. Packing her things in silence became a ritual of farewell, not just to a shared home, but to a part of herself, the part that was naive, trusting, and blind. Every item carefully placed in the suitcase symbolized a step away from the slavery of someone else's falsehood. Stepping out the door, she didn't look back. Her back was straight, and her gaze, though blurred with tears, was fixed forward. The road back to herself, to reclaiming her own dignity and faith in the world, in fairness, in the possibility of loving without the fear of betrayal, seemed endless and thorny. This was only the beginning.